The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Those here in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. Tonight we got a good show lined up, and matter of fact, I have one of the guests sitting right here with me in my studio, and we will get to them in just a second. But I do want to thank everybody again, and we have with us tonight Barbara Duncan.
I'm here.
And we have Tiffaney Mason with us.
Good evening, everybody.
So if she's not loud enough, let me know and I'll doctor it up. But she should be. Of course, she has to learn to get close to the mic. She's afraid to talk for some reason, like it's going to bite her.
It makes me nervous.
Well, we do have quite a few people in the chat room. I know we had said we was going to have the Ghost Brothers on, but they are at a convention, Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, and they wasn't able to get away from their booth to be able to do the show. So I am going to tape an episode with them later next week, and then when we have an open air date, we will play their show. So we will have them on. I talked to them, and everything's going good. And with that, I guess we're just going to kind of like open everything. Yeah, have a conversation. Anybody in the chat room, if you have a question, you can private chat to H. Foister or Ceiling Cat. We will get those answered. We're going to have another guest come in about 9 o'clock to be with us also. I'm not sure how many people knows him. I've heard of him. I've been with him in Mid-South a few times. It is Jason Snyder, so we will have him come in. He wanted to come in and be with us too. So we'll have all kinds of things to talk about, and I'm sure Barbara's going to have tons of questions. Tiffaney, she does investigations with me sometimes.
I am the scaredest psychic medium you will ever meet.
But she is on track. So, I mean, when you go with her, she's going to tell you things, and surprises me a lot of times. So that's pretty interesting, I tell you. So with that.
Yeah, well, first of all, how was everybody's full moon Friday the 13th?
Well, yesterday at work, things were very, very interesting. And, you know, I kind of knew going into the day that things were going to get a bit dicey. It did not disappoint. But about 9 p.m. last night found me laying in my driveway soaking up the full moon. And I tell you, it was so peaceful. There was not a feeling of chaotic energy or anything. It was just, I don't know, like releasing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a beautiful full moon, too. Those of us who could see it.
Yes.
Nice and orangey when it came up.
I didn't get to see it at that point because by the time it got to our tree line, it was up a little higher. But it was so full, though. And I'm like, yes, this is a good fall moon. I'm okay with this.
Yeah. It is. And unlike some people believe, Friday the 13th wasn't supposed to be an unlucky day. It was actually very lucky for most people. It was only until, the Knights Templar, they all got rounded up on a Friday the 13th.
And
yeah.
So that made it unlucky, huh?
Well, for them,
Yeah.
most definitely.
I've never heard this story. Can you tell me more about it?
The King of France, it seemed, owed the Templars a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money. So he pretty much went into cahoots with the Pope back then. Now, understand the Catholic Church back then was more political than it was now.
Okay.
So what they decided was to round them all up and accuse them all of being heretics
What?
and devil worshippers. When in fact they weren't. They were more bankers than they were anything else.
That is crazy. Now, I have heard that the Knights Templars were also like early forms of Masons as well. Like they worked together, but I don't know the validity of that.
Pretty much. They all went in. It was like a holy crusade. They were generally single men, although that's not always the case. And they pretty much escorted pilgrims to the Holy Land. That was their thing. But to do that, they had to have money and to exchange money back and forth, the different currency of the different areas. So they would barter and sell money back and forth. So they basically became bankers.
That's very interesting. And
yeah.
so the King of France at that time, because he owed them so much money, instead of paying them off, he rounded them up and executed them?
Yeah.
Was it done at a specific location, or was it done just like at groups?
No, because they were all in different areas. They were all the way from Scotland all the way back to Jerusalem. So they would round up as many as they could. The leader at the time was Jacques de Molay. And these people were not just rounded up and killed right then. They were beaten, tortured, made to sign confessions that they were indeed worshiping the devil, and most of them were burnt at the stake.
So kind of like our Salem witch trials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Anybody had heresy at that time. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I did not
There was
know that.
another group called the Hospitallers, which were under the umbrella of the Templar Knights. They were the ones that, they were that's where the term hospital came from, and they were also rounded up, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. So not very.
And that's so interesting that it had such a lingering effect that the Knights Templar and the Hospitaller, I think is what you called them, their legacy has lived on.
Yep.
And nobody would really think of the King of France at this point,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Templars got a bad deal on the whole thing. So. And then, of course, it was a good day for the people of France because that was the day they'd stormed the Bastille.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
So,
the bread riots and all of that.
You got it.
Okay. I was a history major. That's what my degree was for. But I only did the United States, so Civil War through World War II. I'm not too much into international history, but I remember a little bit from the French Revolution. Mm-hmm. Okay. Me and you need to talk.
So, yeah. Friday the 13th was actually a very fortunate day for a lot of people. So, unless you happen to be a Templar Knight.
Well, I was so busy yesterday that it kind of just slid right on by me. I didn't even realize it was the 13th till it was almost over. So
it was so hot here. By the end of the day, it was like needed to be basted and sprinkled with Parmesan cheese at the end of it because it was hot.
That's funny.
Wow.
But that's kind of what happens when you have full moons. Although this one, it was at its, I believe it's the perigee. The moon was the farthest away it's going to be from the Earth.
At that time. Wow.
Yeah. As opposed to a full moon when it's at the apogee, which is the closest. And you have the bigger tidal height and more storms, etc. So, but all in all, it was an interesting day.
So other than the heat, did you have a good Friday the 13th?
Yeah, I basically stayed at home and out of the heat. That was nice.
Nice and relaxing.
Played with the kitty cat. Yeah. Wasn't fortunate for the cat, though. She got her flea medication. So.
Poor kitty.
Yeah. Helpful hint, do not give flea medication drops to a cat on a full moon.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So we know that Tiffaney is a psychic medium. Are you a sensitive or
I wouldn't call myself anything. I don't use terms like that, Henry. I know what I know, and I see what I see, and that's it. I don't label.
Well, that's
doesn't
good.
make any sense.
Well, that's good. I mean, I don't do either one. I don't feel anything. I'm not one that sees things. So,
Barbara Duncan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be up close, though.
Sorry. I know that you said you don't do labels, and I totally get that, and I respect that. I was wondering, though, so do you see spirits or do you feel them? I know you said you get your information. I was just wondering what senses you use.
You know, sometimes it comes to, like I was telling Henry, there was that term at the Brookdale Lodge where I stuck my hand in a cold spot, and it was just more like seeing what had happened. And, you know, I don't know what you call that. I don't hear ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
I hear noises. I guess everybody hears hauntings. So,
yeah,
whatever you want to call them. So,
in case people's not familiar with that, why don't you tell people about the Brookdale Lodge?
Brookdale Lodge is in the South Bay of California. It is now turned into a hotel and spa. It used to be it started off as a lumber mill, and then it turned into a hotel with a bakery and a restaurant in it. Very well known among the Hollywood elite and also the mafia. And they always come up, people like, Marilyn Monroe and Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
That whole group, yeah. It's nice. It has a really nice restaurant with a brook running through it. And the brook, supposedly, the owner of the hotel had a young daughter named Sarah, who was playing in the brook, slipped and fell on a rock, and was killed.
I was going to ask you, when you had said the Hollywood elite, if you meant like old Hollywood, you answered my question, yeah. And that's amazing. So I grew up in Wheeling, West Virginia, mm-hmm. and it was, it was a boom town for a long time. It was the starting point west from the 1700s through like the 1820s. But then it became a coal and steel town because it was near Pittsburgh, right? But they had a lot of like bootleggers and different things in that era. So from the 20s to the 40s and all of that, there's a old theater there called the Victoria Theater. And they have the Capital City Music Hall. So how you're describing the lodge there, those places have the same feeling, obviously minus the cool running water through it. I mean, let's just be real. That's pretty awesome. But isn't it so interesting? You had mentioned the cold spot, how you can go into an environment and everything looks the same like it normally would, but then you turn a corner and it's different.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, like turning a channel or putting a filter over it. Yeah. And at some point, I don't know if you ever saw a Woody Allen movie called Midnight in Paris.
No.
But at midnight, it turns back time.
What time does
he
it
would
go
go
back
from
to?
modern Paris to Paris of, say, the 1930s.
And what is this called again?
Midnight in Paris.
Midnight.
And I think that's what you're talking about, where all of a sudden you turn a corner and, hello, who are you?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so for me, because I see the dead, sometimes when I'm at a location and, you know, I'm just there just because I'm there, not that I'm doing an investigation or anything, I will turn and I will see somebody and it'll seem out of place to me, but, you know, people dress however they want to dress, so you don't pay it much mind. But then your other senses go off and then you realize, oh, I'm looking at something that's not here, which makes me question, are they aware of their surroundings? Is it like a loop or, you know, residual kind of thing? So, and I've never had an opportunity to question them because it happens so quick. Like you said, it's like the flipping of a channel and then it's gone again. It's weird.
Well, I often wonder too, especially with bootleggers, because they have usually the tunnels that they were smuggling barrels through off of ships, etc. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's always you're hyperactive. You're hyper aware, I should say, which makes you more focused. And I think when you start getting energy like that, it leaves a stronger imprint, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Do you ever watch the History Channel at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So several years ago, probably at least 10 or more years ago, they had a program called Haunted History. And I was so intrigued by this. I was still in like elementary school possibly, but they did a ghost town out west. I want to say where like the Birdcage Theater is. I just don't remember the name of the state.
Tombstone.
That's Tombstone.
Okay, yeah. And they kept hearing the crack of pool balls, but there were no pool tables or anything in there. And so what they were discussing was like a place memory. So not an actual ghost or haunting, but a memory of an event that occurred. And because it occurred so repetitively, that it just left an imprint. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it makes complete sense to me, simply because, well, with like the Brookdale, there's water running through it, and that's limestone running through there. So I would not be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me at all that there's residual energy in there somewhere. And I think wood picks that up quite a bit. Different types of rock pick that up quite a bit. So it would make total sense that it would keep that sound.
So do you...
I mean, as I explained at one time, to me, a residual energy is an echo.
Yes. Okay.
And so eventually the echo is going to die off, but depending upon how loud the sound was initially, that's what makes the sound reverberate. So it could go on for a long, long time, or bounce off of something else if it happens to pick up again. You know what I mean? It could amplify it. So to me, it's an echo of time.
So not an actual haunting, but just
an echo.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question from the chat room from Kat. She wanted to know if you thought that maybe you're seeing someone's memories of the area when time seems to turn back.
If I'm seeing someone's memories, so like the ghost's memories, or what?
The spirit, what their memories of the area or what was going on.
I actually don't know. I never thought about that. Like I said, it occurs so quickly that by the time you have a chance to focus, they're already gone. The most recent time this happened to me, I was at an antique store here locally, and they have a whole bunch of glass display cases, like in rows. And I turned and I saw a woman in a maroon dress, and she had on a round hat that had netting on it. And I thought, it was just a person who liked clothing like that. And so I didn't pay it much attention, but I turned back and she was gone. So maybe it was her memory. Like maybe her clothes were there and she just showed up. I don't know, but that is intriguing. Thank you for the question.
Was that down at Ross?
No. That was off Route 4 in Fairfield.
In Fairfield?
Yep.
Really? Which one was that?
Ohio Valley Antique Mall?
Okay, I've heard of it. I haven't been there.
Yes.
Pretty interesting, though. I don't know. I feel that when you pass, your spirit is still there in wherever the memories that the spirit still has. I think it can go to wherever it wants to.
Yeah.
And it's still living in that time. That's why I think that when a lot of people sees a spirit that is got old clothing or they're doing something, it's them they see things in the time of when they passed, not the way things has changed now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people will say they see a spirit go in like through a door, but there's no door there and stuff. To them, back when they was living, that probably was a door there.
I actually just did a home reading for somebody here in where I live. Can I say where I live?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is that weird?
That's fine.
Here in Hamilton. And they had invited me out. It was this married couple, and they had purchased the house, and they were going to flip it and rent it. But they were experiencing activity, and this gentleman kept meticulous notes of all the stuff that had occurred. He wrote down time, date. He took pictures if things were happening. But it got to the point that neighbors on either side of the property were coming up to him and saying, hey, we saw an upstairs light on. We knew you weren't there at the time. Did someone break in? Da-da-da. So they invited me out to walk the property, and I picked up on two spirits. And the woman downstairs was going through the wall, but where she was going to the bathroom that was on, like, you would have to go through the kitchen, through the laundry room to get to the bathroom where she's going, through the wall. And I couldn't figure out why she was just walking into the wall. Well, as I'm explaining this to the clients, they kind of chuckled and said, yes, so this wall was actually filled in, and what is now the bathroom that we remodeled used to be the dining room / pantry. So it makes sense to what Henry was saying, that they don't recognize our time to a degree. She was still going about her routine, but she was cognizant and aware, that we were interacting, and she was interacting with the living who were there, but she still kind of followed her routine. It was quite interesting. Does anyone else have thoughts on that?
Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around how she could see the living now but not see the wall, or not care that the wall is there.
Right? And I don't understand that myself. She would make noises for them to hear her. She was communicating with me perfectly clearly. She was giving me a tour of the home. But like I said, that one wall she would go through, almost like it was habit. So maybe in spirit world or wherever she's residing, it's still the same way for her. So it would look the same, that she would recognize, but she clearly...
Or maybe she knows she can walk through walls.
You said that plain as day, and it never dawned on me. That's sad.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, never know.
And I feel so dumb now because I'm trying to put like all these deep thoughts into it, like da-da-da, and you're like, she probably just knows she can walk through walls.
Well, I mean, does anybody ever ask a ghost if they do that, they could do that?
No, but now I'm going to have to interact with one of my favorite dead people and get the 411 because now I'm interested.
Okay. Nyla wanted to know, if she died and come back to her house, will she see it as it is now or as it was when she was living here?
From the interactions that I've had with the dead, it would be how she remembered it. And a lot of evidence kind of supports this, especially, when you hear stories of ghosts that you can't see from their knees down. It could be that they're standing on a floor that's no longer there. or any number of things. So I think it would be the way that you remembered it.
Interesting thought.
Yes, very much so.
And I think that's why a lot of people sees a spirit interacting with something else,
right,
and doesn't notice them.
Yeah, and it could be entirely possible if you have a table light that keeps getting knocked over, and you have no idea why. Well, the spirit in their time may not see it, and so they're bumping into it, and they're probably wondering what they're hitting on their side that they can't see.
Right. Are you still there, Barbara?
Yeah, I'm just trying to contemplate. Yeah.
She's trying to wrap around that.
Well,
one.
it's also interesting that they can walk through walls but can knock things over, and how are they doing that?
Yeah.
And it kind of is interesting if it's a matter of will, that they can knock it over, because obviously they don't have the mass to do it.
Right.
They don't have the mass to move a ball across the floor either, but how are they doing it?
Do you think that could come through telepathy or thought?
It kind of would have to. It is not unheard of. I mean, if you talk to people who practice Tai Chi, and some of the Buddhist monks that use Chi energy, they can move objects. It's amazing how much energy gets projected out of their hands. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Very interesting. I like this conversation because it's posing a lot of questions that I've never considered asking the dead. You know, a lot of times when I do readings for clients, it's because they're wanting to communicate and connect with their loved ones on the other side. And so a lot of my readings pertain to that. Yeah, I'm going to have to get out my dead person Rolodex and be like, okay, what you know?
Okay. Barbara, Jason said he can't hear the show. None of his 4 devices won't play the sound on the page for some reason. Do you have any ideas for him?
Yeah, he might want to check the other sound buttons at the bottom of the page. There's like 3 lines. If you hit one of those, it might work. There's also, if you're on a tablet, there's a gear sign up in the upper left-hand corner, I believe, that will change the sound. Otherwise, go to, what's it called? Nokia.
Like the old cell phone?
No, there's a broadcasting system that works.
Right. There's Nokia. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can also use a Paranormal Radio. We broadcast on that as well.
Right. Right.
Well, so, Jason, if you're listening, I hope that helped.
He jumped off. He's working on trying to get sound.
Okay.
So he'll be back on, though. We're going to have him on a little bit later. With
yeah,
us.
We have sound in a lot of different. We broadcast on a lot of different areas, folks. You can also go through Alexa.
Really?
We'll also, yep. You can say, Alexa, play Para X Radio.
Really? Huh.
Yep.
You know, those little things freak me out. A friend had one, and it would randomly go off in her house. It would say, good morning, and no one would be talking to it.
Well, she has settings like that.
But it would be at night.
Oh.
And it would occur randomly. It was never on a schedule. It would randomly just say, good night. Or it would start playing a song. Like, you know how you say, Alexa, play da-da-da. It would just start playing the music.
Oh. All right. Jason said iPhone 6 is Dell laptop, Ace laptop, and Samsung tablet.
Still not working for him?
I don't know. He didn't say. If it's not working, he can't hear us talking. So she's telling him here what to do down at the bottom.
Okay.
So, but what was we talking about?
The Alexa.
Oh. Yeah, we was talking downstairs one night, and I was talking about something. All of a sudden, Alexa pops up and says something pertaining to what we was talking about. I says, I didn't say Alexa. I said, Alexa, cancel. So that's happened before. So Alexa, just to let people know, is always listening. So
It's like modern day Big Brother.
yes, very much so. So, all right.
Well, here's another good question, and that is using Alexa as a ghost box.
I was just thinking
Are
that.
you kidding?
No, we're not.
Has somebody tried that?
No, but it makes you wonder if it's possible.
Okay, Henry, we need to get an Alexa and take it on an investigation. We need to try this.
Can you take Alexa with you like that? I mean, can you put Alexa on your
Well,
phone?
say Alexa, contact the dead.
Really?
I mean, this poses a theory. I think we should test this out. We need to try this. I am super intrigued right now.
Have you got Alexa?
No.
No.
But if you do, we'll take yours. Hey, when we go back to Middletown, it'd be worth to try.
Hey, we'll see what we can do.
Thank you for the good idea.
Because all you have to do is just plug it in to wherever you're at for power.
Sync to Wi-Fi too, I think.
Yeah, because, well, it's probably programmed to my Wi-Fi.
Okay, and if you have,
So if I've got it with me on my phone or...
When's the next time we're going back to Middletown?
The 28th of October.
Okay, this gives us time. We're
Yep.
going to prepare for this. Miss Duncan, you hear this? Okay, we're making plans over here.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that it would do the same type of scanning that a normal broken AM radio would, like a shack hack. So why not?
Yeah, we can always try it and see what it does. Okay. All right. Let's see here. You had... Oh, that's what he asked. Now, you're a medium sensitive. Is that what you say?
Mm-hmm. Psychic medium,
Psychic medium.
crazy person, whatever you want to go with.
I know you've been with me on lots of investigations, and you went with me out to Preble County Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
A very nice place, well kept up.
Yeah.
But you were just freaking her out with some of the things that you were telling her.
I was freaking her out and you were freaking me out. When we were upstairs and I was interacting. No, listen, I will see and talk to the dead all day long, but I can't get EVPs to save my life. You're like a battery for EVPs. I don't understand it. But when we were upstairs in the hallway and I was talking with the young boy and, nothing was happening really well. I was carrying on my conversation. You were doing voice recordings. We go downstairs and I remember you're like, yeah, let's just give it a listen back. We probably don't have anything. We weren't up there that long, but let's just see. And plain as day, you hear my conversation and then you hear the boy going, yeah. The hair on my arm stood up and I'm looking at you, and that's the first time I have ever heard in real time the dead being recorded that I was having a conversation with. I was completely spooked, and you were like, you talked to the dead. I was like, yes, I talked to the dead, but I don't ever get them recorded. So yeah, it was a good time.
Jason said he just can't get the sound to work from here. All right, I'll send him a message, because once I get him called into the show, he'll hear everything through my end, not through the show itself. So,
do we need to take a break?
No, we aren't going to take a break. We're just running right on through. Yeah.
We're going until 10 straight through.
Unless, Barbara, you wanting to take a quick break or something?
No, I'm trying to give him type in directions.
Oh, okay. You take care of that then for me. Thank you. And
what's going on in the chat out there? Any good questions, comments?
Not any questions right this minute. They're just trying to talk to Jason to get him to where he can hear in the chat room. You got a message on there from him?
Nope,
Okay.
I was just checking.
Okay. You can send him a message on the phone, and let him know when he wants me to call him in.
Okay.
He'll be able to hear the show going then.
Okay.
So, all right.
So it's going to be in 10 minutes.
Is that what he said? Okay. I'll call him in 10 minutes. So, we have any questions out there? I mean, this is pretty interesting stuff. When did you find out or realize that you had the ability to see spirits and talk with them?
So I started seeing the dead when I was little. It was never a question of are they real or not. It was so commonplace for me that I never had to second guess it. My mom told me they're just dead. They won't hurt you. Go back to bed. So, okay. And I did my best to tune it out. Growing up, you don't want to be singled out, especially for the wrong reasons. So for the longest time, I tried to ignore it and wished it would go away. I had a active spirit when I was young, all the way up until I moved out of my parents' house, that really bothered me. I could only ever see parts of him. I could see that he had on a overcoat, like a suit coat with the white undershirt. I could see that part, and he had a fedora. I could never see his face. I could never really see any other features of him, but I could tell how he was looking at me, if that makes sense.
Right.
And he would loom at the end of my bed, and he would stare at me. And it just felt very uncomfortable, almost like he was angry with me for some reason. And I grew up in a log cabin, so my room was up in the loft area, and I had a walkway at the top. So if you were down in the living room, sitting on the couch, you could look up to the loft and vice versa. When he was really active, he would stand in the loft at the corner of my room and glare down at me on the couch. And I could never figure out who this person was or why it was so angry with me. My dad had that house built. It wasn't like an old house. It wasn't anything that we could determine. The only thing that I thought at the time, though foolishly, was that it could have been my grandfather, because my grandfather dressed very similarly. He was a very sharp-dressed man, and he also was in World War II, and I knew that he had, killed people in combat. So I thought maybe it was him, but I couldn't understand why he was angry. So the first person that I ever really told that I felt comfortable telling was a girl named Lacey. And because she said that she could sense things too. Well, she came over, and sure enough, she felt his presence, and she confirmed, she goes, "It's not your grandfather. Yes, they may look alike, but it's not him." And she put her hand out and told the guy, "You're scaring her. You're not welcome here. You need to leave." And I never had the gumption. I was going to go with another word, but we'll go with gumption, to confront something like that or to say anything like that. And the fact that she did amazed me, and the fact that he listened amazed me. I still to this day have no idea who he was. And members of my family still live in that house. And so now, even when I do go back to visit, if I think about him, it's almost like he hears it and he'll come back, but it's not as strong as it was. So I've seen them, like I said, ever since I was little, but that's really the first strong memory that I have.
Were you afraid?
Of him? Yeah. I mean, mainly because I didn't understand his anger towards me. I don't know why.
Did he do anything towards you, or just looked menacing?
He looked menacing, and granted, I couldn't see his face, but it was almost like I could feel that hostility. And the way he would loom at the end of my bed when I was in it was almost like he was standing over me, like in a dominance position. And I didn't like that. I mean, I started experiencing him when I was 10 or 11, all the way until I moved out when I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds an awful lot like what they call the men in hats.
I've never heard of that.
The dark, shadowy type things with the broad rimmed hats with the red glowing eyes.
I never saw his eyes.
Yeah. And a lot of times you don't, but it's just like a tall, like very tall, slender hat wearing person.
So what would those be? Would it be a person or just a collective energy? Or
It's interesting because nobody really knows, although it seems to be a phenomenon where they just show up. And it can be a different type of hat, a fedora or a wider rimmed hat. But I think there's several books on just men with hats. It's just like a shadow person, sort of.
I am super interested in that because, like I said, the only person that I ever encountered that dressed like that was my grandfather. And so the time period that I had put this spirit in was in the 40s or 50s because that's the style of hat that he had on. It matched. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are people that claim they show up in times of crisis or before a crisis or during a psychological event. But that's pretty much it.
Wow. Okay, so that makes... Okay, so when I was 10, my mom was in a near-fatal car accident. She was in a coma for a month.
Okay. That could very well make sense then. So think of him as a human Mothman.
I don't know what the Mothman is.
Mothman is the guy that shows up when there's big disasters, like what's that town in West Virginia, Henry?
Yeah, it was over.
Yeah.
Is he like a predictor of goodness or?
No.
He's one that I guess was flying over the bridge when it fell down over there, and a whole bunch of people got killed.
Yep. So is he like a harbinger of death? I don't understand.
Eyes.
Or disaster.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I wonder.
But it seems to me that the men in hats were more personal.
So maybe I'm trying to. I don't remember seeing him before Mom's accident. I remember him after.
Yeah,
and he
that
stayed
makes
the
me
whole
wonder
time.
Often if this sort of phenomenon, whether they cause it or feed off of it.
Oh, so he could have been feeding off of it because, and that could be why he stayed because, all of our lives were turned upside down at that point. And I mean, myself, my mom, and my dad, we would have been batteries for him. But I think he specifically chose me because I could see and interact with him. And he knew the fear that he put in me. Very interesting. And so
that makes sense.
And that could definitely explain why when Lacey, was firm with him and told him to get out, that he listened.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that barrier there, huh?
I am so intrigued. I'm writing this down. Men in hats.
Men in hats. Or men with hats. It's hard to... I can't remember what they call them anymore, but... It's a big phenomenon. Even if you Google it, it'll show up like shadow men with hats on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look into that because I would really like to explore that further because honestly, it was scary. It was scary for me. And, my mom wasn't cognizant to ask questions after her accident. And my dad never believed in the paranormal. Not that he didn't think it was possible, but just that he didn't believe. And we always had things happening in our house, which I attribute to my grandmother, and I had confirmation on that. But so many things would be going on in our house, and I would get blamed for it. But it wasn't me. And that occurred all the way up until I moved out. And the only time my dad ever mentioned anything about paranormal was after I had moved out, and he only ever said something once, and that was it.
Wow. And they do bring up a good point in chat in that it used to be a fashion. Men wore hats constantly. It was a given.
Right.
And it could be that some of the ghosts, are the men who keep wearing hats. I'm talking about a different type of phenomenon. These are more like a dark, shadowy figure that normally will show up at a time of crisis. Now, could it be your grandfather or a loved one in the family that always wore a hat? Yes. But these tend to be a little bit more menacing.
Yes, exactly.
In nature, yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I originally thought it was my grandfather because that's what he wore, but I couldn't figure out why he was so angry. But now you saying the men in hats thing, and it puts it into perspective. So I don't think it was a family member.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So have you ever seen or sensed that the house itself has a personality?
Yes. And it goes back to something you said earlier about wood, because I grew up in a log cabin. I mean, we were surrounded by woods. We had 100 acres. And there were times when I would get home late at night and it would feel off. Almost like a buzz, like a buzzing sound, just looking at the house. And I knew my parents were inside and they were, asleep in their bed. And even that didn't bring me a level of safety. It was like the house was watching me watch it. But it was very few and far between. But I remember feeling like that.
Now, what about the house communicating?
What do you mean?
Do you think that a house can communicate?
I don't know.
Makes me kind of wonder in situations like hotels, where there's been so much activity, so much energy in there, that kind of makes you wonder if the house itself can have a personality to it.
I mean, I guess it's possible, especially for hotels because of the nature of the business. But our house was built for us, by us. So I don't think that it would have had enough time to accrue its own juices, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But
you think in like writers have sort of hinted at it. People like Stephen King with Rose Red.
Yeah.
And Shining.
Oh, have you seen Room 1408?
Oh, yeah.
With John Cusack? That movie gives me the heebie-jeebies. So we have Muzak at work. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is, but it's like a satellite.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And the song that plays on the alarm clock will play at work, and I look around like, does anybody else feel this weird?
Jason said he finally got it.
Welcome to the party. Better late than never.
Just as I'm getting ready to call him in. So, Barbara, I'm going to call him, and if for some reason it knocks us off, I'll try and get you guys back on, or get you back on anyway. So, let me go ahead and call him, see if I can get a hold of him.
Dun, dun, dun. That's like my favorite sound. I know I did it at Middletown too, but yes.
But 1408, that's sort of interesting to think that maybe the house itself, after a period of years or decades.
Oh.
All right, we got Jason with us.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how we doing?
Welcome to the party. Better late than never.
You can hear now, can't you?
Man, my gosh. Yeah. Actually, I have no idea what happened. It was the strangest thing. I tried to get on with my phone, which is the most convenient thing, and then I went to my tablet, and I'm like, geez, this isn't working right. I don't know what's going on. So I was like from one device to the next, and 4 of them didn't work.
After how many devices do you wonder if it's user error?
So, Barbara, you still...
and here's the thing. I still don't know how I fixed it.
Barbara,
I really, really don't.
Barbara, you
You
still
must
with
have
us?
somehow,
Oh, okay,
so.
good. All right. We got everybody here then.
So, Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
I love that question. Well, first of all, I guess the best way to describe me is I'm a paranormal investigator, I guess, is a good way to do it. I'm also an event promoter, and, I like to do all kinds of other things, fun things, paranormal. Things like, I do host murder parties, dinner parties, and things like that. And then events, of course. You guys have probably been, well, I know, Tiffany, you have. I think Henry's been to one or two of my events. And then, doing, some traveling around and some investigating whenever I can find the time. And, that's been it. I've been at it hard since about 2006, 2007. And, I was just really, really blessed to meet a good group of people in the community first. And, it's just been all downhill from there. It's been, I guess I say uphill, downhill, however you want to say it. It's been all positive. It's been great. The community is wonderful. It's an amazing thing. And I love to be part of it.
So I know I've seen you a couple times down at Mid-South when I get to go down there. I've also seen you up here at Post Town.
Yeah, the Post Town event is something that myself, Keith Age, and Daryl and Brenda Wisman, we hold an annual event there every year. And basically it's Post Town's way of giving back to the community for the support throughout the year. I was approached by it a couple of years ago by Keith and Daryl about it, and I thought it was a really, really great event, a great idea. And so I jumped on board, and we just had our fourth one back in August, I'm sorry. Yeah, just a couple weeks ago. And it's a really great event. I mean, we really like it. The community, I wish, was a little bit more supportive of it, the local community there.
Right.
But it's so funny because the majority of the people that we get come from, how many different states?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes 5 or 6 different states every year.
Yeah, and I live just like maybe 10 minutes from there, 15.
I live 20 minutes away from there, yeah.
Yeah. So I every now and then I get a ride by over and see Daryl. I've done my show from there many times, and so I don't get over as often as I would like to, but yeah.
Wait, should we tell people what Post Town is so they don't think it's just this random word that you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we could certainly do that. Post Town Elementary is obviously a historic and haunted school. It's been known to be haunted for many, many years. If you haven't seen it or you're not familiar with it, YouTube it, because there's all kinds of videos and stuff like that on YouTube that you can check out on Post Town from multiple people.
Post Town made it on YouTube?
And
really?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. She wanted to know if there was things from Post Town on YouTube, and yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah. There's lots of stuff on there. I don't have anything particularly on YouTube regarding Post Town, but there's a lot of good stuff on there. And, a lot like you, Henry, I just don't make it down there enough. It seems like just for the annual event every year, and it's not enough time with the Wismans because they're such a couple loving individuals. And when you go there, Post Town feels like you're home because they basically open up theirs for you every time as a guest.
So, go ahead.
Then the school never disappoints.
Okay, so I was going to say I went to the event. Henry and I have been vendors there, but this past time I got to go just as a guest. I didn't have to work. It was amazing.
Oh.
And honestly, throughout the years that we've been doing it, I never had any real interactions there. Except for during New Year when I went with Will and Olivia, 2 friends of mine from Indiana. I was spooked out then, okay? It was fine. But this past time, because they split us into groups, I got to go on the tour, which, I've been through that building numerous times. You know that, Henry. You've been through it.
Yep.
I'm always like, yeah, it's Post Town. Like, there's not a whole lot going on here. Let me tell you, we were in this hallway, and, we're looking down the other end, and plain as day, I see somebody walk horizontally as we're looking vertically. And I said, nope, I'm out. And, yes, I'm a psychic medium. Yes, I do ghost investigations. But if something goes bad or makes a sound, I am gone. Y'all are on your own. But Jason was the leader of our group. And I had decided that I was going to try and scare him because he doesn't get scared. So he says. So I'm like, okay, we're in the corner of this hallway and the group's over here. And I'm leaning with my back against the wall where the steps would come up, right? And I can still hear them. And I'm close enough to the group where I'm not so isolated that I feel afraid. But I'm preparing myself like Jason's going to walk down this hallway. I'm going to walk out and I'm going to scare him, da-da-da-da-da. And then we start hearing noises, like voices, and this clicking sound. And the group was like, is that you? And I said, no, I thought it was you. And they're like, no. It was the room off to my right on the other side of the hallway. I got so scared, I went back and sat down with the group.
Yeah, now let me go ahead and kind of fill in a little bit on this. Now, you got to understand, I do the investigation every year at the end of the event. And this was one of those nights that I honestly, looking back even till now, I said, this is without a doubt one of the most active evenings I've ever seen in a school because, most of the people out there who are listening know you just can't turn the paranormal on like a light switch for most people. When you have that many guests and to be honest with you, I want to say we had about 20 for the whole school, which wasn't terrible, but you want everybody to have that experience. Or a experience. And it seems like every single guest that night had something. And it was funny because you were listening to the individual groups, and some of the groups were, without even talking to the other groups, were talking about, certain activities from certain areas. A lot of them were, the same areas. They were literally matching, they were literally saying, hey, in the doll room, this happened. And I was like, that's funny because the other group that was just up there said the same thing. So it was overall, it was a great night. Like I said, all the guests had some sort of an experience, whether it was a personal experience, whether something was captured. And yeah, it was a lot of fun investigating with Tiffaney too, because I think we've known each other now for 3 or 4 years, and we've never investigated before together.
And now you get to see what a scaredy cat I am.
Investigate with quite a few people for the first time. It was a great night altogether.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the question is, now that there's a ramping up of ghost shows on television, do you think that a lot of the people who come onto the tours these days are genuinely interested, or are they more looking for the thrill of a ghost?
Well, in my personal opinion, I think it's a little bit of both. And, even as somebody who's been investigating as long as I have, in the beginning, it was wanting to, find answers, and it was a little bit of both. You wanted to have that experience, you wanted that feel, you wanted to know what it was like, and you wanted to have something to be able to go home and tell people about. That's for sure, and, even for me, even today, like Tiffany said, I don't claim to get scared. I've been rattled more than a few times. And to be honest with you, I actually still enjoy those moments when they happen. I don't know about you guys, but I know I do. So I think that the people that are coming for a little bit of both, to be honest with you.
Well, I won't go into a place by myself. And all I can say is when I'm in a place, don't be between me and the door.
I'm with Henry on that. We will exit together.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. When those moments happen like that, and every single time that it has happened, there's been people that's witnessed it. I'll be honest with you, those moments weren't pretty as far as being able to, walk with a strut after that, because if each time that I can think of where something literally jarred me, the last time that it happened, I literally jumped back and forgot that there was a wall right behind me, and I hit this wall and I fell straight on my butt, and in front of about 20 people.
Wow.
But that's, but here's the thing though. I honestly felt like somebody was screaming in my face. Just in my face.
Where was this?
And although this was actually believe it or not, this was in a police training facility.
What?
Okay. It was an old naval training facility. Then it was taken over in Fort Wayne by Fort Wayne Vice Narcotic Division. They had offices in there, and they did training inside of here.
Okay, you need to give us the story now.
Night, I'm sorry?
You need to give us the story now. Like, we need to know what happened. I'm actively listening.
So it's a place that had been rumored for years to be haunted. Okay, we knew that it was occupied by the Fort Wayne Police Department. Basically, it was an old school, and then it was a naval academy, and then it was a police training facility. Okay, now when you drive past it, it looks just like a school. Okay, so I was digging around in local areas that I wanted to investigate. It was kind of like on this folklore thing. And I said, you know what, this thing's been hanging around Fort Wayne for a couple of years with stories. Let's get a hold of who we need to and see what's up with this place. So we get a hold of Lieutenant Zelt. And he, at that point in time, I want to say he was head of Vice Narcotics Division, I think was what his entitlement was. And he has an autistic son who had been having instances in there and had came back and was freaking out and had complained that he had seen a man in the shower. And that was one of the stories of a man that was in the shower or in the locker room, in the men's room area. And apparently what the story was is that there was a guy, a janitor, if you will, I suppose, who was an alcoholic and was mean to the children, and he eventually had committed suicide in the school. Now, all that was unsubstantiated, but here this police officer had an entire vault on his computer of things that have been witnessed by other police officers and other people who have captured things on their own devices in this place. So everything ranged from photographs that you couldn't explain to something walking past doorways to voices being recorded to his autistic son, which he knows very well. He's like, he's not the kind of guy, he's not the kind of kid, he's 12-year-old autistic kid. And he's like, he's just not the kid who would come in and just say this. I mean, his son was down in a locker room after playing in the gym while his dad was working in the office. He's playing in the gym. He's getting late. He tells his son, go in and take a shower. His son goes in and take a shower. Next thing you know, his son is standing in front of his office door, down the hallway, 2 wings away, dripping wet in a towel and shaking and talking about a man yelling at him. Now it's like, 10 o'clock at night. So the officer gets up and goes out and looks, does some investigating around. Nobody's in the building, So that was just some of the stuff, that had happened in this place. And at one point in time while we were investigating, we actually got a lot of kudos from the cops, because the cops that were coming in to do their office work on the third shift, they were checking out all of our equipment, and they were pretty impressed with all the high-tech gadgets that we had and everything in the school, which was really neat, because it was, these are police officers, who what I would would call credible witnesses, very logical people, and here these guys were telling us stories about these things that they've experienced in this place at night, and it was just really awesome. So we're in the locker room. We're actually standing in the shower. There's about 16 of us in this area, about 5 other people outside the door. And I'm leading an EVP session in there. And everybody just heard it. It was like a loud, like breathy, but it was in my face. I felt the warmth in my face, like somebody was standing right in front of me.
Wow.
And I literally jumped back and forgot that my back was already against the wall. I was like 4 inches away from this wall. And then my feet slipped because the shower was wet. So then I fell on my butt. And so it was a comical moment. But at the same time, people, I was like, did anybody else hear that? And, 5 or 6 people were like, yeah. So we go back into this EVP session, and we finally get quiet down and we settle down. And there's a sound of like what it's like when you're in your bare feet and you're walking across a shower room floor and your feet slosh in across the wet floor.
Yeah.
Kind of has that sound to it. Okay. Now, mind you, there was all these people inside of the shower, and we continued to hear this. Wow. As it just kind of circled around our group inside of the shower. And we're all talking about it, and it wouldn't stop, and then eventually it just quit. Huh. And then that's when I was just like, all right, I don't really know what to think about all this, but we got to peel out of the shower. And that was a moment for me that I literally had to go outside and smoke a cigarette and get some fresh air, because it was just one of those things that you just don't experience things like that. I rely on a lot on physical evidence and personal experience, and that was one of those that, really, really shook me. And it didn't matter that it happened in front of people, because it really, everybody else that was there was freaked out too, so. But we did get some EVPs. We did see quite a few shadows throughout the night. I heard things moving in the rooms, like desks and chairs scooting and things of that nature. A really interesting place. And since then, and that was about 6 years ago, since then they've now torn the school down. And what they've left is they've turned it into a park, and they've left the archways that went into the schools. They left those erect as landmarks to the school. So you can still see the 4 stone archways that stand there with a park in the middle. So it's a pretty cool place, but it's no longer there.
And where's this located?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Fort Wayne. Is that where you live?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know where Fort Wayne is.
I know where Indianapolis is. I don't venture into Indiana.
Right, well, for any of those people who don't know where Fort Wayne is exactly an hour and 45 minutes north of Indianapolis. So we're the second largest city in Indiana.
Old, too.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
It's a very old city. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've had this theory ever since there was an episode of Ghost Hunters where they went to an armory. And had an experience there of a ghost lifting up a sound pack and shoving it in somebody's face. And it makes me and it makes me wonder if military bases and armories and police stations are a little bit more active, and simply because the spirits there were trained to focus their thought and attention on some things, that they could be a lot more effective haunting-wise for that reason.
Yeah, I would suppose that could be a viable explanation. I mean, the same would go to things like theaters and churches. I mean, how many theaters do we know of? Well, we know that there's no reported deaths, but are just haunted as hell. In churches, a lot of people say, well, why would you suppose that a church would be haunted? And it's, I can understand that a lot of God-fearing people would cling to the religion and to the beliefs on their final days. Maybe that is the one thing they don't want to leave. With Masonic temples, okay, the Brotherhood fraternity of the Freemasons. Masonic temples all across the United States are haunted for whatever reason. Some of them there's been recorded deaths. Some of them there's never been a recorded death. But what is it? Is it the attachment? Is it, that's the amazing thing about the paranormal realm or the afterlife or the in-between, whatever you want to call it, is that everything right now is an infinite possibility. And I think that the overall consciousness of everything and everybody who's all involved in it furthers the knowledge.
So, Jason, I have a question. Do you have any upcoming investigations?
I do not. Currently, I don't.
Okay. The reason
excuse me, I got a bit of a cold.
Oh, you're fine. The reason I'm asking is because Barb Duncan posed an interesting theory earlier when you couldn't figure out how to get on about using Alexa as a voice box. And Henry and
that would totally be interesting.
Right? So I've been telling Henry that when we go back to the Middletown Historical Society, we're taking his Alexa and we're going to try it. But I was going to say, if you have an upcoming investigation, maybe you could try it and report your findings.
Well, I can tell you what, I'd definitely like to stay in touch and find out, what's going on with that. Because if it hasn't been attempted by the time I get to my next investigation, I'll definitely make sure that it happens. I'm really surprised that actually anybody hasn't really jumped on that yet, to be completely honest with you.
See, Barb, you're a genius.
What's that?
She said Barb's a genius. She's the one that brought it up.
It's a good idea. Well, why not? It's another communication device, right? So, why not? Why not give it a shot? And I was just getting ready to say something. I kind of lost my train of thought. See what you did?
Old age did it. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's definitely old age. Yeah, it's definitely old age. I can't remember what I was going to say, but it was going to be something along the lines of technology in communication. Oh, okay. I'll tell you. So me and a coworker are sitting in a work truck the other day, and we're on our way to a job to do, right? And we have our GPS on. So we have arrived at our destination, and the GPS says, you have arrived. And so, okay. So we pulled over in front of the house, and we're sitting there, and we're, looking at the house and talking about a game plan, what we're going to do when we get started on this job. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the GPS navigator lady says, I don't have a photo of you in my wallet. And then she says, unbelievably, I'm not wearing any pants. And we just looked at it, and we just looked at each other and was just like, the hell did that come from?
Where'd that come from?
I mean, I wonder what you and your coworkers are up to.
It wasn't Siri off of the phone. It was, so it wasn't something that you would think just, I could see Siri saying something like that if it thought it heard something. But first of all, like this thing was analyzing our conversation automatically. We hadn't even touched this GPS device. It was just sitting up on the dash. So it automatically picked up what we were saying, and then, thought that maybe it was answer. I don't know. I've to this day, Kevin, I've never been able to figure out how this thing. I didn't even think that the GPS navigation lady even had a vocabulary like that.
You just said that
we just chalked it off as the government.
Hold on, listen.
We just really like it's the government.
You just said she was analyzing your guys' conversation. So why would you and your coworker be talking about not wearing pants if she was analyzing your conversation?
But you see, that is what the whole mystery was. We weren't even talking about pants. We were talking about this house and this job. We were nothing at all that we even said. And that was just it. We couldn't figure it out. And, we couldn't understand what the big, she said literally, I don't have a picture of you in my wallet, and I'm just like, where the hell did this come from? I don't know. We chalked it off as the government. We're just like, look, it's probably the government. Tomorrow we'll log on Facebook and there'll be advertisements for pants all over our timelines. So, and wallets.
Wow.
Which is, I didn't even think GPS is even interacted.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I didn't either.
Exactly what I was saying. I had no idea. Exactly.
I thought all their stuff was already made up to start with, according to the GPS where you was located at.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I thought too. And look, this wasn't on an iPhone either. This was just on an older model Android phone. This thing, it was just the weirdest thing. We had no idea either. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. And that's not the first time that she started talking to us either, by the way. But that was by far the most profound thing that she said, that we're just like, where did that come from? Who knows?
Wow.
Who knows? Maybe it's paranormal.
All right. Barbara, I think we ought to take a break or just keep on going.
Up to you.
Well, I'm going to take a brief break, and I will be right back.
Okay. Then why don't we all just take a little break here? That's okay.
And I'll let
I'm
Jason.
okay with whatever.
I'll let you know, Jason. During the breaks, your microphone or your phone will be live. So,
as will your GPS. So keep it quiet.
Just don't say anything during the break, and you won't hear any music or anything on the break. So just don't say anything, and you'll hear me talking when we come back. It'll be about 3 or 4 minutes.
Just leave it where you're at, Jason, and walk away.
All right, Barbara, you want to take us out?
Okay, folks, you're listening to the Paranormal View here on ParaX Radio. Join us in the chat room at paraxradionetwork.com, #/chat, and join in the conversation. We will be right back after a few messages.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making ParaX part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, ParaX.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Those in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. And speaking of around the world, Barbara, where do we have listeners at tonight?
Tonight they're in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia.
All right. That sounds good to me. And we have with us Tiffaney Mason.
Hello. My mic's not turned up.
Oh, sorry. Okay, try it now.
Hello, everybody.
And we have with us Jason Snyder. So,
Howdy.
Howdy.
I want to welcome everybody back.
Howdy.
So, this is your first time being on ParaX, isn't it?
I believe it is. I do. I believe it is. At least recently, anyways. I think it's definitely our first time on with you, Henry. That's for sure.
It is, yes. I keep trying to get more and new people, and then when I start trying to book dates and stuff, I'm looking around. I know 50,000 people, and it's hard still to get them. So we were supposed to have. I was going to have the Ghost Brothers on tonight, but they're in at Scarefest, and I talked to them a little earlier tonight, and they're going to try and set a date up next week to tape a show for me. So,
I actually Googled while we were on break. So Post Town is doing an event coming up. It's a con. Did you know that, Henry?
No, I didn't know they was going to have a con.
Jason, did you know that?
SuperCon?
Yeah, you knew about that?
Yeah, it happens actually every year. Well, it has for the last, I think, 3 years now. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, it's a really cool event, too. I mean, I've never been there.
Who is it runs
it
that
always
one?
happens at a really crazy time, but...
Do you know who runs that one?
I don't. I don't. I think that it's... I can't remember. You know, Daryl and I talked about it when I was there. And, I hear so many names, that it's really, really hard to remember. But I don't remember who runs it.
Well, they had 3 floors full of vendors last year. I was at it.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to the guy because normally I would go, but he said that they wasn't going to have it this year. So I don't know if they're really going to still have it because he was supposed to let me know, and I haven't heard anything.
As far as I know, it's on.
Okay.
Because Daryl was talking about it while we were there at Post Town. Obviously, we're doing a little bit of promoting for it, at the Post Town event there. So, but I do know that it's happening this year. But other than that, I don't know much about it. There's a con going on about 40 minutes away from me here in Fort Wayne this weekend, called Warsaw Paracons in Warsaw, Indiana, and John Zaffis is there, and Grant Wilson is in town, and Dustin Perry, and I guess the Race Chasers and a few other people are in town for this thing. I didn't know about it until like a month ago. And that's just really, really strange to have something like that literally right next door to where we are, and especially of that caliber, and not know anything about it.
Hey, Henry, do you want to make a road trip tomorrow?
Where are we going?
Warsaw, Indiana. Jason, we'll go an hour out of our way just to pick you up, to take you to Warsaw.
Well, ironically enough, I think that your opportunity's come and gone, because I think that today is the last day for it.
But it's a Saturday. How are they not doing it on this?
Know.
I'm not okay with this.
I don't know.
Is that old jail? Is that the jail that lives there? Yeah. It probably was.
Well, biscuits.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with this.
Yeah. No, we had those people on the show too talking about it, and someday I might make it over there for one of their events.
Do you remember when you and I? Go ahead.
I said, I've never met the people before, I don't think, but they've been doing a lot of stuff up around Warsaw for several years. I mean, we're talking close to 10 years.
Uh-oh, did I lose you?
Jason.
Somewhere?
In the ether.
Okay, hold on here. Let me see what's going on. Looks like I must have lost Jason. I will try and get him back on. So everybody just hang on.
Wow, his technology.
So, Barbara, you still with us, right?
Apparently,
okay.
yeah. West Indiana's hopping today.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get him back on here then. So, you guys go ahead and talk. Don't let me stop you.
Well, okay. Barb, I wish you lived closer, because I would really love to pick your brain. You have a lot of interesting perspective and like ideas to try. Do you ever come to the East Coast at all?
I haven't been out there in ages. It's just, yeah. I have a kitty cat who demands attention every day, so it's a little difficult for me to get away.
I was going to say, can you find a cat sitter? We'd be worth the visit. Maybe Mr. Forster and I can take a plane or a train and travel out west and come visit you.
Well, he has this magical 6-hour train trip that gets him to...
What?
I was only going by what she said. I didn't have nothing to do with it.
What is this?
Patsy said, we could go out there. It's only 6 hours on the train.
Oh, that's all. Okay. We may be seeing you sooner than you think, Barb.
All right, let me try this again here. Apparently, I hit the wrong number somewhere.
Oops. That's difficult.
He's going to be so offended. He's going to be like, I'm just not good enough for this show.
Yeah. But it's amazing how many there aren't that many cons in California, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. The venues cost a fortune. So I think that limits the amount of paranormal events that happen out here, which is a shame.
Okay, I've got a problem here. They're telling me that it's going to cost me money to do this.
Uh-oh.
And I pay to where I'm supposed to be able to call unlimited anywhere in the United States and Canada. So I'm going to have to talk
Maybe
to
he's
these
been
people.
abducted.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's what Skype is telling me that I got to do.
Yikes.
Try exiting it out and try calling again. Maybe
it's not going to work like it. So I'm going to end up having to.
So Jason, if you're listening,
send him a message.
Now that you know how, call him. No, you can't call in.
He can't call in, and I can't call. How's your Skype set up? Are you able to call somebody and it not cost anything?
Me, no.
Oh.
I have a simple Skype.
Oh, well, see, I paid for Skype to where I could have free calling anywhere in the United States and Canada. But now it's all of a sudden. I don't know if they've changed Skype or what. I'll have to check into this because I'm supposed to be signed in and all that good stuff. So I don't know what's
Well, you
going
just
on.
called him, so you must have.
Yeah, I mean, try it again.
Well, I did, but it's telling me that I only had so many minutes to call a phone, and now it said that that's out, and they're wanting me to pay $5 or something just to call him, and then I ain't doing that.
Right. I was just wondering if maybe we got the area code wrong because it is wonky. If we entered it backwards, maybe they thought we were making an international call. I don't know.
No, I'll
I'm not a tech savvy person. Henry had to help me put the earphones on. That's where we're at.
Okay, let me do this here then. And
That would be.
add. Let's see if I can do this. Nope.
Nope.
It's not even letting me do that. To call mobiles or landlines, it is $5 to continue somewhere else around the world. For the United States, mobiles and landlines, unlimited minutes is $2.99 per month, and they're supposed to already done that. So,
Do you want me to pay you? I have
no,
cash.
I'd have to go through a bunch of stuff, and it'd probably knock us off filling stuff out,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to do that.
Gotcha.
So, just let him know that I'm sorry for what happened, and I'll get that straightened out, and I'll get him back on the show again sometime soon, and we can talk more about all that.
I'm letting him know right now.
Okay, tell him I'm sorry. I didn't realize that because mine was already, it was supposed to be in there where it's automatically taken out and paid for through PayPal. So if something's messed up on my Skype,
Yeah.
then I'll have to go in and fix that. So
It's Skype.
So sorry. Yep, and this is beyond my control. So
Yep.
anyway, if anybody,
What investigations do you have coming up, Henry?
the 18th of October, we're going back to the Middletown Historical Society. It's pretty interesting there. We was there a few weeks ago, and Tiffaney was with us. I played for her one of the few. Well, actually, I had a couple of knocks and bangs and stuff like that, but there's one that I had a voice on. You could faintly hear the voice, but you couldn't make out what they was saying. Tiffaney said she thought that they was singing.
It's like it had the cadence, like when you're going da 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 da, like that rhythm. It's what it sounded like, but you can't hear words. I swear it was almost a lullaby though of some sort.
And it wasn't just a word or something like that. It was almost, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 words, almost like a sentence or something like what she was saying was singing. And pretty interesting. But Mark and his wife, they must have had 18 different things on hers because she was back there by herself asking questions and stuff while we were doing the show from there. And they had quite a bit of stuff, which was pretty interesting. I mean, she actually was getting answers to questions that she was asking. So,
And see, I find it interesting. I myself can never get EVPs ever. I don't know why. I'm just not that cool, but I need to hang out with Henry more because he gets them more than any person I know.
Well, Henry, you use a digital tape recorder, not an analog one, right?
right.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So Jason just messaged me. He said that he's sorry he couldn't continue with the rest of the show, and that he would love to be back on.
Okay, excellent. We'll get him back on. No problem. And
On a real phone this time, on a Skype call. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll take care of that. I'll work on Skype and have it fixed because it's never come up before. No matter who I called, I've never had any problems. And I've called like 2 or 3 different phones of people coming in. and it's never said anything like that to me before. So
Yeah, Skype.
yeah.
Do you
Gotta love
remember the time that I tried logging in because I was supposed to be on the show? And Barb, you were on the show at that time too. And it took me an hour, a whole hour, because I could not connect. I tried from my computer. I tried from our tablet. I tried from Joe's computer. And nothing worked. It was awful.
Yeah. Some people just is not savvy.
Hey!
Oh, it,
Hey!
No, we love Tiffany. So, yeah, it's I've got that, and I'm supposed to be setting something back up out at Preble County. I haven't got anything yet with her on that. I haven't been out there for a while to actually do a whole investigation. I mean, I go out there sometimes, and we'll go upstairs and just try and talk to the little girl and stuff like that, and ask questions, but I haven't really been out there to actually do a good investigation.
I wonder if Cat Cloco, Cat Cloco
Yeah.
would be interested in going. I think she and I would have fun doing it together.
She has never been to Purple County.
We need to make this happen. Make this happen, Henry. Make it happen.
Be interesting.
now, Henry, have you been to Mansfield?
Yes, I was there with Para X had an event there, and I was there with Tim Shaw, and one of the guys who worked there took me and Tim Shaw to places where most of the other people wasn't able to go to, which is really interesting. What are you taking pictures of?
My headphones and how they're sitting weird.
Oh.
That's what I'm doing.
Simple things amuse some people, don't they?
I am a simple person, Henry.
Yeah, so I have been there. The only thing that I actually got, because it was an event, you had people all over the place, so you weren't actually going to go in there and expect to actually get stuff. But Tim and I was on the ground floor out where the tier cells were, and you could be walking down that aisle, and you would get the sensation that somebody was up on the second or third tier watching you, looking down at you. But
I was just at Mansfield, too. I was back there in May, my first time there.
yeah,
Absolutely loved it. So Tri-C is a group based out of Cleveland, and they hosted an event there. They are an amazing group. If you ever get a chance or you're in the Cleveland area, look them up. But, you know, I'm fangirling out like I kind of did at Gettysburg. But, you know, I'm like, wow, this place is awesome. Shawshank, you know. But let me tell you, they have a beautiful serene pond in front of the prison. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about, right, Henry?
Yep.
And so it's May, and you know, there's a lot of ducks in May. Or there are geese that you think are ducks, and they're actually geese. So where I'm going with this, and Barb, you're going to get a chuckle out of this. I'm on a break in between readings, and I'm outside, and I'm looking at the pond, and I love ducks. I love rubber duckies. I have a whole collection. So I see these little baby ducks, little goslings, I think is what they're called. And I'm like, oh my God, they're so fluffy. So I go to pet said duck. I got chased by a goose. Wings fully out. And I did not know that geese hiss. So you will see me, and I'm sure somebody got it on camera at some point, this crazy girl running and screaming from a goose, getting chased in front of Mansfield Penitentiary.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, they have guard geese. There's such a thing as guard geese because geese make great protectors. They'll chase you like you wouldn't believe.
I believe it now. But I'm just saying they should not have their babies look so cute and cuddly if they're not able to be pet, okay?
So now you get a T-shirt. I got goosed at Mansfield. Yeah.
I got goosed at Mansfield, huh?
I mean, I do have a Mansfield shirt, so maybe I can ask them to add that to it.
Yeah, Mansfield's if you had a small group that you could take in there, the guy that took me and Tim around, he took us to a whole bunch of different places and was telling us some of the stories. The shower area. He said guys will get pushed and a lot of other different things happen in that area. There are certain cells if you go into, you can get EVPs, and you can also get harassed or pushed or something like that. So there's a place up on the top floor where a lot of people don't get to go, that there's still writings on the wall that inmates
up in the attic.
The inmates wrote on the wall different things, and I took a whole bunch of pictures of some of those. Very interesting of some of the things that they wrote and the time period and the things that was going on. They used to have, it was so overcrowded that they had beds up in that area. It wasn't a cell; it was a whole room that they would put inmates in. So
it was for overcrowding.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to go in there as well. I thought it was so interesting, looking at so some of the writing, as Henry mentioned, is on the walls, but some of it is carved in, but some of it is wrote in pencil, like the actual old lead pencil. Mm-hmm. The area that really stuck out to me was the administration wing. A lot happened there. And then leading up to the chapel. So the chapel was beautiful. I would have slept in the chapel, right? Out of the whole prison, I felt most comfortable there. What is the I know they have two separate cell blocks. One has the 5-tier and one has the 4-tier. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
The one that has the 5-tier, and I don't know if it's because you feel the residual energy or if it's just because the scale to height ratio is so skewed, but it felt overwhelming. And I can only imagine what the guards felt like. I mean, knowing that, easily they were 100 to 1. Right. I mean, I couldn't imagine the sheer volume of noise that would come out of that place. And I heard, too, that some of the inmates that were actually in the prison when it shut down were transferred to the new prison right behind it. So they got to look at their old prison. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was very, excuse me, from the windows being out and everything, the bars in the cells have oxidized and paint peeled off, rust and everything. That's what makes it kind of like a hazard for people from the old lead paint and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it looks very run down in that respect. If they had cleaned everything up, they could probably make it look halfway decent. But they don't have the funds to do that. Yep. But we were in the where the prison warden lived.
Okay.
And they showed where the guns were kept. They showed all sorts of different things like that, and most people wouldn't get to see. And the way that the center, when you go in...
The rotunda?
Yeah, where you go in, the way that they had some of it built and the way the windows were, when the sun hit it a certain way, it formed a cross out on the floor.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So when I got there, because I was doing the event there, I got there really late at night because my phone died. It fried, and I had to rely on road signs. But, excuse me, so I'm unloading my stuff, and I'm in the elevator, and we're going to the main guard area, or what do they call it? The central guard area, I think is what it's called. Uh-huh. And I get in the elevator, and I have my table, and I have all this, and I'm completely frustrated. And I look over, and I see an officer in the elevator with me. He goes, "I'm Bob." I was like, okay, So I get off on my floor, and I'm trying to unload, and, a couple members of the Tri-C are there, and they're like, do you have any problem getting in? Da-da-da. I said, no, but I just had an experience in the elevator, and they said, oh, really? What happened? And I said, well, I met a guy who said his name is Bob. And they said, actually, there was a prison guard. His name was Robert. And I mean, Robert, Bob, they're fairly common names. But just the fact that was my first experience being on the property, never having been there, I was pretty impressed at that point.
Yeah, she's all hyped up now.
Well, I mean, that's an amazing experience. And prisons are another, like the armories I was talking about earlier. Prison seems to be another area that you don't know. I know that there's the old adage, and I'm not sure if prisoners just sort of felt that it was necessary, but if you die in prison, you stay in prison. Just like if you die at sea, your spirit stays there on the ship. So makes me kind of wonder, if how much of it were prison guards, how much of it are prisoners who just feel trapped.
I can tell you from doing readings there at the event right off the Central Guard Tower with the cell block behind me, and it's sectioned off by glass. So I couldn't physically reach out and touch the cells, but I could see them plain as day. Trying to do readings for clients in that environment when I felt the presence of the prisoners behind me was intense. It was like being in a fishbowl. So I do think that there's definitely something to be said for prisoners being left or choosing to stay, whatever the case may be there.
You kind of get that feeling like in the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg sitting there and the waiting room is filled with ghosts and they're all waiting their turn to get a chance to talk. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that they're trying to communicate?
I think there's a good many of them there that are. On the flip side of that, I think a lot of it too is residual energy, that it's just what they knew. So they're not aware enough to have contact, but there are definite entities there that are cognizant.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it makes complete sense because prisoners had a routine and it was the same routine every single day. So yeah, routine after a period of time would build up that residual energy, I would think.
Now, when we were walking, we weren't going in any real destination or doing anything. They were just kind of showing me the prison. I thought it was really interesting because there were times where you didn't feel anything. You weren't picking up on anything. You were just in a place. But I was getting hungry, and Henry, you know how much I love my food.
Oh yeah.
I was like, man, I'm so hungry right now. I could really use some chow. Chow is not a word that I use in my everyday vocabulary. I mean, if I'm saying chicken chow mein or something like that, but saying chow, and I didn't register it, saying it, but I caught myself after, and I was like,
why did I say that?
Why did I say that? And I wonder if it was me channeling, which, I don't ever do because I don't allow that to happen, or if it was because my mind associated where I was and used placement word, or if it was a spirit that was
coming through.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, the place that you're at would dictate your perspective on things. You have your own filters. My first reaction is, yeah, I'm in a jail. Of course, I'm going to talk like that, just as if I was on, at the, what's it called in Tombstone, Henry? The name of the saloon.
Oh, the OK Corral or the.
Oh yeah.
The saloon. The bird cage.
You start to, talk cowboyish kind of because that's where you are.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a good point though.
So, Well, if anybody's got any questions out there, you need to send them over to us so we can talk about them. We've only got like about 12 minutes left, something like that. So I do want to thank Jason for being with us tonight for a while till my Skype messed up. And then I will get that taken care of and have that fixed for next week. So I won't have any more problems with that. But now, where's some of the places other than Mansfield and Gettysburg that you've actually been to that you've investigated with people?
There is a historic museum here in Fairfield. I cannot remember the name of this house. I want to say something farm, maybe?
Well, there's a lot of them that's got farm in it.
I know.
Oh, is that? I know which one you're talking about, though. It's an old house.
Yep.
Who in the world takes care of that?
Butler County.
But is it
No.
Butler County? No,
It's not. But you know the house.
right.
I can't think of the name of it. But I investigated there. And I had been in and out of that house all afternoon, set up, we going in and out in groups.
Now, what group was you with?
I was with,
She can't remember.
I can't, I have the memory of a goldfish.
They did a lot with.
Triops.
Yeah,
That's
tryouts.
the name.
Yep.
But I was with them, and so we were in and out of that house all day. I mean, no problem whatsoever. And then near the end of the night, it was my last rotation through, and I was taking the outside steps going up, and I felt like I was being watched from the windows. On every floor that I hit on the outside, I felt somebody looking at me from the inside. But I just brushed it off. I had been in and out numerous times, didn't have any problem. All the interactions were perfectly fine. Nothing to really be concerned with. So I go back in, and we're up in the front. I guess it would have been a bedroom. And one of the members was using the dowsing rods, and we had Channel 12 there with us. And, they were panning on him, which is fine. I don't do well on camera, and I'm off in the corner minding my business, just watching. And all of a sudden, I felt this rush up into my face. Like if someone runs up to you and stops really quickly,
Right.
like the wind that comes back from
Right.
that. I felt that, and all of a sudden, it felt like a necklace was around my neck, twisting. And I kept seeing a female, and she was super pissed. I have no idea why. I don't know what I did to her. I have any knowledge of anything at this point. Joe was with me at the time, and he heard me gasp. He drags me outside, and she is watching every step that we had taken. So we get outside, and he makes me hug a tree. I am not a tree hugger, but I have healthy respect for getting the energy off of you. Like it really works great. So I'm in the front of this house hugging said tree, and I look up, and this female is glaring at me from that window in that same room, and I have not been back there since. Not that I'm afraid to go back, not that, anything is really keeping me from going, except for a respect. Right. She clearly did not want me in there, and I'm going to respect her wishes on that. But that's one of the places that I've been with the group.
Yeah, I don't think that group does a whole lot anymore.
They're not together anymore.
Yeah, and so all the places that we used to be able to go with them haven't been able to. And of course, Ryan's Tavern is no longer there. It is gone.
So sad. Don Ryan was such an amazing person.
I know. And the house down in Fairfield that you was talking about, since they don't do that stuff anymore, I don't know if they allow anybody to go in there or not.
They don't, to my knowledge, and I'm Googling it. The Elijah Morgan House.
The Elijah Morgan House, that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Now, what about that place that used to do the Halloween walk? With the different houses?
Oh, you talking about Dayton Lane. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh. They had been doing that like every other year, and I don't remember if it's this year or if it was last year. It might have been last year.
It was last year.
And I didn't get a go. I'd like to get in contact with them and try to find out where the host house will be, which is the house that's on the tour. That's the last house. They usually serve beverages to those who's on the tour, and I guess snacks. I'd like to be there and be able to talk to some of the people on the show of the different things, if they, the stories that they would hear going to these different houses that the people would tell them about.
They also have some psychics that go too. I want to say last year or maybe 2 years ago, they had Victor Peruta.
Yeah.
He was doing readings, and if you're not familiar with who that is, he runs the Victory of Light Expo in Sharonville, and he also runs, I want to say, Body of Light Convention in Columbus.
Right. He's fairly
So he
well
didn't
known.
do tours. He actually was doing readings.
Right,
Yes.
right. Yeah, the tours is done by the Dayton Lane Committee.
The Dayton Lane Historical
Society. And 1 year they'll do the ghost tours, and another year, I forget what it is that they have, but they do.
They do the ghost tours, and then on the off years, they do the historical home tours.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why it's only every other year. And
Okay.
during the year, they also have, you can buy a ticket. There's one day where there's houses that is open for people to go tour through if you have a ticket, where people is took and restored some of the houses, or they're still working on restoring the houses. And Patsy and I did that 1 year, and we haven't been back because it's a lot of walking up and down the stairs and then from one house to another, and it's spread out over like 3 or 4 different blocks. And so that'll kill you after a day in the heat walking like that, doing that.
Yeah.
But but they had some really beautiful homes, and some that wasn't so beautiful because people were still working on them. So, and they also had some that was, here, you can buy this for this amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great community marketing program for sure, and I'm sure for realty purposes it would be amazing, but it's expensive.
It is, yes. So, but we only did that for 1 year, and then we haven't went back. So, all right, we're down to like about 4 minutes. You got anything else? I haven't seen any questions come in from the chat.
No, I was just thinking this time of year in the Midwest is usually nice and starting to get fall-like and,
Not yet here.
frosty.
It was a balmy 86 today.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 93 or something like that tomorrow. Yeah, and then 92 the following day or something like that, and then cools back to in the 80s with rain.
Oh, that's not very fall-like.
No, it'll be another probably week and a half, 2 weeks before we get any kind of a fall type weather.
And I love driving and people have their Halloween decorations out, and I'm like, your ghost is going to melt.
Well, I've already got my styrofoam pumpkins and leaves and stuff and my peeps. So
Yeah, I've been talking to
it's
Patsy.
time for Halloween peeps.
I've been talking to Patsy, and I'm trying to get her to see if we can't have at least one more Halloween party here before we sell the house. We had one the first year, and I mean, it was we had quite a few people come in, and hopefully I'd like to have one more. But
Well,
anyway,
you got to lay down some residual energy there, Henry, so next people will know it's haunted.
I know that. I got a feeling they will know anyway from the stuff that happens here. I mean, I haven't seen anything, but I hear voices and things like that. So we do know that. We're down to like 2 minutes. As of right this minute, I don't know what's going to be next week. I'm still working on it. I got some ideas, but nothing great. But the week after, we do have Marie D. Jones on, and with her new book. And I'm telling you,
I read some excerpts. You guys should check the book out.
Yeah.
It's called Celebrity Ghosts and Notorious Hauntings by Marie D. Jones. And yeah, I asked Henry if I could borrow it, and he said that he's not finished with it yet, so I'm first in line.
And yes, there is. I mean, you'll be reading on this all day and all night for probably a week and a half. I mean, it covers anything and everything dealing with ghosts, haunted places, you name it. And it's not just in California. It is, they got places all around the world with it. So
Awesome.
we are like 1 minute. Go ahead, Barbara.
No, I was just going to say that was awesome. It sounds like a great book.
Oh, it is. It is. I'm still reading on it, and I bet I've got 4 pages of questions that we won't even come close to getting 1 page done.
Awesome.
And if you get it and look in the credits, who will you see in there, Tiffany?
We see Mr. Foister himself, and I believe he's on pages 366 through 368.
Yes.
There we go.
Stories that I sent her and she put in the book. So, pretty interesting. So, you can get on Amazon and see when it's available, and you can order it from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So, very good. All right. It's 10 o'clock. We're going to be off, and I'm going to tell everybody good night, and we will see you next week at the same time. So, Barbara? This is Henry Foister.
And Barbara Duncan.
And Tiffaney Mason.
All right. See you next week. Good night, everybody. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.